thevoicebeforethevoid.net, Cattle Rustling and the Republic. From Realizable Ideals by Theodore Roosevelt. Edited and read by The Voice Before the Void. In the old days, I used to have a cow ranch in the shortgrass country. At that time, there were no fences within 1,000 miles of it. If a calf was passed by on the roundup, so that next year when it was a yearling and was not following any cow, it was still unbranded, it was called a maverick. It was range custom, or range law, that if a maverick were found on any range, the man finding it would put on the brand of that range. I had hired a new cowpuncher, and one day when he and I were riding, we struck a maverick. It was on a neighbor's range, the Thistle Range. The puncher roped and threw the maverick. We built a little fire of sagebrush and took out the cinch iron, heated it, and started to run on the brand. I said to him, "The Thistle brand." He answered, "That's all right, boss. I know my business." In a minute, I said, "Hold on, you're putting on my brand." To which he answered, "Yes, I always put on the boss's brand." I said, "Oh, well, you go back to the house and get your time." He rose, saying, "What's that for? I was putting on your brand." And I closed the conversation with the remark, "Yes, my friend, and if you will steal for me, you will steal from me." That applies in lots of occupations besides those of the cowpunchers. Nowhere does it apply more clearly than in public life. Perhaps the most dangerous of all public servants is the public servant who gets into office by persuading a section of the public that he will do something that is just a little bit crooked in their interest. It does not matter what section of the public is thus persuaded. It does not matter whether it is the great corporation man who wishes to see a given individual made judge or executive officer or legislator, because he is our man and he will look out for the rights of property. Or whether, on the other hand, it is the wage worker, the laboring man, who supports some candidate because that candidate announces that he is the friend of labor, although the candidate is the foe of decency because he preaches violence, envy, class hatred. The capitalist who thinks it is to the interest of his class to have in high office a corrupt man who will serve his class interest is laying up for himself and for his children a day of terrible retribution. For if that type of capitalist has his way long enough, he will persuade the whole community that the interest of the community is bound up in overthrowing every man in public office who serves property. The corrupt capitalist may help himself for the moment, and he may be defended by others of his own class on grounds of expediency. But in the end, he works fearful damage to his fellows. If a businessman cannot run a given business save on condition of doing things which can only be done in the darkness, then let him get out of it and into some other business. The test is easy. Let him ask whether he is afraid anything will be found out or not. If he is not, he is all right. If he is all wrong. So much for the capitalist. Let the wage worker, in his turn, remember that the candidate for public office who appeals for his support upon the ground that he will condone lawless violence, that he will look the other way when violence is perpetrated, that he will recognize the rules of a labor organization of any kind as standing above the Constitution and the laws of his country. Let the laboring man remember that if he supports such a candidate, he in his turn is doing his best to bring about a condition of things where democracy would come to an end, where self-rule would come to an end. Let any man remember that he had better be most shocked at the misdeeds of his own class, and not at the misdeeds of the men of another class.